talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, men. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina Show with your host, Joe Miller.
Joe always sounds so cool when he says that, but today, ladies and gentlemen, you have a special guest host, and it's your boy Jason. And I have this when every Buffalo Rumblings Network brought to you those feature flavorful pizza because we are shipping nationwide at Picasso.net. What on, Mr.
Hey, Jay Spence the King. Thanks for sitting in, man. We're breaking up a little bit there. Anybody in the comments section, if we're breaking up, yep, Tracy Fitcher says we're breaking up. I don't know if it's on my end or not.
Is it in the comments? Let us know if it's John. Get this right. That way it is.
Yeah, who's breaking up? Is it me or Spence? Me or Spence? Me or Spence? All right, well, you're frozen. You look great frozen, man.
I'm frozen? Huh?
Yeah, you're like, I'm okay. Spence is breaking up.
Right. Let's reset my whole thing real quick. Why don't you off and talk just your experience? Then I'll jump.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, everybody in the comments, everybody who not in the comments, man, it was a great weekend. I flew out here to Buffalo, catch up with everybody, came in on the red eye, and I do this to myself every time. I just overbook myself. I think I build in a little downtime, but it's never there, Spence. I'm just going and going and going. So I got in at 5 a.m., grabbed some breakfast. They let me have some early check-in, and then I just went from place to place, man, because I just soak it up. I'm, the city of Buffalo, that's my town. And then in the early evening, I had some people over to Pour over on Pearl Street just to catch up with some of these wonderful Bills Mafia people that I engage with and love so much, like the entire community of Buffalo. And then went to a Halloween party with Josh Allen's parents. So I got to hang out with Mr. and Mrs. Allen, and Jim Kelly came by. It was pretty damn cool. And then, man, I got home late, tried to watch some of the UCLA games, see my son play. Could hardly stay up till 1:30 in the morning, and then it's like lather, rinse, repeat. Game day, tailgating. Anyway, we'll get into that, but we gotta give our props to Mr. Spazcheck, the market dominator. So he's the sponsor of the show, title sponsor. Spence, you're coming in clear. Can you roll him up?
Blue 21 said hi. Oh, hey guys, I'm not Josh. I'm John Spazcheck, the market dominator, the proud sponsor of the John Fina Show, hosted by the voice, Joe Miller. And folks, the great thing about why we love our quarterback, not only is he awesome, but here's the reasons why. He's super disciplined. He's an incredible hard worker. He actually is very intelligent, and he has a ton of focus. These are some of the qualities that my good man John Fina used on the field to help the Bills get to Super Bowls so many years ago. But now, in real estate, I'm the guy who helps you win. This is what we do. We educate, we advocate, we negotiate, and we dominate. So if you want to win in this market, you call me 716-570-3298. Go! Let's go, Buffalo!
Man, I love that guy, and it is a tough market. So if you want a real pro, somebody who's tough, just like the market is, give John Spazcheck a call. You saw his number in there. Reach out, say hello, and he'll help you out, find the house of your dreams, and guide you and work with you, man. He's a great dude.
I love him, man, and energy. It just makes I feel like he should lead the charge one day on the Sunday. I feel like he would get the whole stadium amped up, man.
Yeah, you might have to have Market Dominator up in the stadium somewhere, right? That wouldn't be cheap, I'm sure. Right next to the Market Dominator's Highmark Stadium. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, let's see who all we have in the comments here. We have Daniel. Daniel's always in the house. Shout out to Daniel. We got my homegirl Tracy in here joining us tonight. I think I saw my favorite person, Mimi. Yep, Mimi Fina's here. She said you're good for her with the sound. Karen is here, and there's so many people. I don't think Antonio's here, but Antonio left this comment at 1:56 p.m. Eastern time. So I just had to shout him out. Thank you, Antonio, for tuning in and for wanting to be hanging out with us tonight. Pam is here. She's on time. Pam is on time.
Ah, how nice. I got to meet Richard Rush. He didn't mention his name, but he's been in all the shows and just a super great guy. I got to meet he and his wife, drove up from Ohio, and Tracy, of course, Pam and Dan, and yeah, man, it's just such a great community. I love it. And getting a chance to show up and say hello and put live action faces to names that you see on Twitter, it's terrific. And then it was great. I was walking out of the game, and always looking for people that you see. You're doing the celebration as you're walking out after a win, and man, ran right into Richard and his wife again. So thanks for joining us here.
Man. I love his beard. His beard is like it's immaculate. Like I don't feel like I could never reach that level of beard. So shout out to him and everybody else in the room. Happy Halloween to everybody. John, the game. I know there was a party at the Mafia House. You want to talk about that first really quickly? Because I feel like it was such a great time there. I didn't get a chance to stop by, but I saw all the pictures. I saw videos. I heard so many stories. Why don't you fill us in about kind of what happened over there?
Oh, well, first of all, I had a couple from Las Vegas with me and a couple from Phoenix. The Phoenix couple's from Kenmore and Rochester, and the Vegas couple, this is a great story. The guy just, when he was in junior high school, wanted to pick a winner, right? So he's been a Bills fan his whole life. And I bumped into him in Las Vegas and said, well, you been to a game? He said, well, not yet. I tried to get to one, and there were some circumstances. It's a long story, but I'm going to the Packers game. Oh, no kidding. I'm leaving from Vegas on the red eye. He says, I'm leaving from the red eye on Vegas. So just meet this guy, just gravitate with him, bring him out to breakfast, and he and his wife, they had a great time. So, we saddled up, we got ready, and we went down to the tailgate. I think we got there around 2:30, and it was already just jam-packed, man. It was live. People were going nuts already. We took them over to Iman and Q42's tailgate, introduced them to everybody, just saturated them with what it's like. They've been dying. You watch a game on TV, but you hear about all the tailgates and all the people and all the food and the fun. And then we ended up at the Bills Mafia House, and everybody was just so warm and welcoming. And, we took tons of photos. I realized, I was there for about 3 hours, Spence, and I was like, man, I haven't eaten anything. I'm so hungry, but I was just so busy talking to everybody and visiting. It was fantastic.
Yeah, man.
We had DJ going, and man, I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who has maybe you know his name. He's a rapper, and he has
Dom Brown.
What?
Dom Brown.
Yeah, Dom. That's right.
Yeah, shout out to Dom Brown, man. He does great things. He has some great music, and not just every year he drops new music. And, it's a party over there, man. Shout out to Dom Brown. Yeah, we got to get him on the show one of these days.
Hey, and Barbecue Freddy, Buffalo Freddy.
Yes,
man,
sir.
The food. Oh, it wasn't like you go to a, tailgate and you're having chips and onion dip. Man, it was full blown. I finally got over there. I ate my weight in nachos, dude. There's queso coming out of my ears. It was so cool. And then it was just all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we got to get to the stadium, and people just start migrating out of the tailgate, and you don't get a chance to talk to everybody, and you don't get a chance to say goodbye to everybody, but I did my best and made my rounds around, and to a person, maybe they're bad online or maybe they're great online, but in person, man, everybody was pretty damn cool. Really, really great feeling. Justice was there. great. It was so cool.
I got a chance to see Justice, but I can relate completely to what you're saying. It's like when you finally get a chance to go back home for one of these, it's like, there's so many people that you want to catch up with. There's so many people you want to see. So unfortunately, this time I didn't get a chance to party with everybody over at the Mafia House, but there was like so many other parties on the other side of it. I didn't even get a chance to make it to the Mafia House. But listen,
I know.
Man,
I was supposed to go to 2 more tailgates, but you just get parked and the time just flies by.
It happens.
It was awesome.
It happens.
Yeah,
So
you and I'll get together in Phoenix, though. We got to do that soon. It's been too long, my brother. Too long.
It has. We have to get together for lunch or dinner or something like that, and just catch on up. But let's get into this game. So first, what are your thoughts on the game? The Buffalo Bills defeated the Green Bay Packers 27-17 at home. We didn't quite cover the spread. I was a little disappointed. We didn't quite cover the spread, but we were very close to doing it.
Yeah, the spread was a big subject of conversation in the suite. A lot of people were like, "Oh no!" And I solved that by never gambling on football. Makes it a little bit easier. And as far as I'm concerned, we covered the spread, right? We got the W, so that's all that counts. Look, I think we look at this team and the pieces that Bean and McDermott have put together, and we just get we identify or adopt this sense of invincibility, and that no one can stand in front of us, aside from a fluke game in Miami, which I do feel was a fluke. And, expectations go up, and I'm a victim of that too, because I'm a huge fan. So I think my thoughts on the game were, I'm really happy. And that might sound silly, right? Because the second half was lackluster. But without adversity, coming from time to time, without a poor performance by 1 or 2 people or some poor tackling or some schemes that are off, it's hard to tighten the screws, Mm-hmm. So it's a wake-up call, and it was a free one because it comes with a W. So my thoughts on the game were, hey, we got out with a W, but we got work to do. So you refocus. You're a 6-1 football team, but it wasn't pretty. And although it shows up 6-1 in the columns like that, as a player, you just reinvest. When it's too easy, too long, and I'm not saying it's easy because all games are hard, but when it looks easy and feels easy, I don't say you lose the edge, but you have to manufacture it. So a little bit of a wake-up call manufactures it for you. How about you, man? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, so I agree with most of what you're saying, but then I look at it from a different perspective. I don't feel that it was even a wake-up call. I don't think that we performed as badly as a lot of people want to put. I think that we've gotten spoiled as a fan base. I watched the game back a couple times today. I actually watched it twice, and I think obviously the 2 turnovers by Josh were not good. Obviously, those were bad decisions on his part. But when you watch the game, I feel like the defense still played well. I think it was somewhat of the game plan I don't want to say let them run over us, but I think it was somewhat of a game plan. Like, look, if Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers and they're going to put the ball in his hand, we're going to make them suffer. And I think the team expected that, and because of that, in the second half, the run but they didn't put up points. So I don't see it as, like they played horribly. I look at it as, you do what you do to win the game. And a lot of times, depending on who you're playing, you're either going to do the bend or break, or, bend but don't break, or you're going to do, let's go out and dominate this team, depending on the competition. And with Aaron Rodgers, you don't go out there and typically expect to dominate when he's on the other side of the field.
True.
I was actually really happy with the game. Of course you want to score points. I get it, but I was actually very happy with the game.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. But I think, if I were to kind of micro it out, flatten it out a little bit, I'd say their running attack was good, and it was really good. And that's the part where I'm saying that gives you back the edge. The defense is regrouping and saying, wow, they had some nice plays in the heart of our defensive line. And then they did that quick toss thing and got out onto the edge, trying to press those young corners and see what kind of help came up from the safety, make Tremaine, make Matt Milano, run the width of the field. And, like we said, we didn't break, we didn't give up too many points. But in the end, when you're watching that film as a player from the player's perspective, man, those 8, 9, 10, 12-yard runs, they just, the coach rewinds them and you just start to do this, you're all fidgety, like, oh man, I don't want to look at that. And then the more you say you don't want to look at it, the harder you look at it. And you're saying, how could I have done that a little bit better? Did I pick a side? Should I have maintained the gap position that I had? And, I think that's, like I said, it's a freebie. You got the W, but there's a few things you can do better.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Like you said, if you get down into it, then obviously the run defense, it was almost scary if you want to break it down to that point, because it's reminiscent of what last year's defense was, and we were, the number one overall defense. But I felt like last year their weakness. If the team could run the football, that made me nervous. So yeah, I could see that. And another thing I will say, I'm still quite not sold, man, and I've been trying to be sold more and more every week. I don't think I'm sold on Isaiah McKenzie in the offense or on special teams. I think his decision making really makes me question the weapon that he can be for Josh. Like the one play, he almost lost 15 yards trying to reverse the field. And he ended up, I think he only lost like 4 or 5, but there's certain things, just decision making, man. You can't give up those type of yards on those plays. How do you feel about Isaiah McKenzie's performance?
So, I went back and specifically looked at that play. And it's curious, when you take a guy who's not a running back and you put him into the type of play that was, which was just power. So we're pulling the backside guard. Bates pulls, and the defensive end, the design of the play was Devin Singletary goes wide, and you stretch the end, and then the guard is going to lead up into the hole and not kick the guy out. And it worked. Everything was perfect. But the problem you get when you have a wide receiver acting like a running back is they don't like to get too close to those piles, those big guys, right? So the hole was there. He just didn't make the cut. And, I think it's a teaching film. It's a good play. I love expanding the defensive end like that with the running back. But then even staying on running backs, just looking at both Devin Singletary and Cook, but more Singletary, the plays that didn't work well for him, of course, I was never a running back, right? I mean,
right.
Shoot, I'd have to fall out of a plane to be fast enough to be a running back. So
I don't know. I got a picture of you. I'm just saying, I got a picture of you with the ball. It looks like, I don't know. It just looks like you were like Reggie Gilliam out there, man. I'm just saying.
It's deceptive, man. It looked like I was moving fast, but it was really slow-mo in real life. But anyway, my point of that was a couple of the runs by Singletary. I always hear the offensive line or the running backs coaches saying, press the hole. And on the ones where he didn't make many yards, he gave up on it too soon. Like, you design a run for a hole, and if there's an inkling of the opening, you got to press that hole and hit it. So in a couple of instances, he saw it might have been closing a little bit or not as big as he'd like. He cut it back right into the teeth of the guys on the backside. So I think in this league with the quality of guys that play defensive tackle and end, if there's something there at the hole, you got to press the hole. And but by and large, I mean, I think our running backs were explosive, especially in the first half, and I thought the running attack looked pretty good. What about you?
I tell you what. First, I'm a huge fan of Devin Singletary getting the ball more. I love what the Buffalo Bills are doing the last 2 games. Absolutely love it. But I'm really impressed with James Cook. I know, yesterday we got a chance to see exactly what the Buffalo Bills drafted him for. The one reception, I believe it was the third quarter or it may have been early fourth, but he caught the ball and ran it for like 30-something yards. That is exactly why the Buffalo Bills drafted him, that run after the catch ability or yak or whatever acronyms we want to use today. That's why we drafted him. And I tell you what, I think he's coming into his own. He's getting more comfortable. And if it gets to that point, I know the Bills have been linked with, trying to trade for Alvin Kamara. They were linked with Kareem Hunt and a couple other running backs around the league. I tell you what, if James Cook is ready, the NFL might want to look out, because if he can add that element to our offense, it's going to be really scary for anybody. It's already scary to face Josh, but now you get a running back that can hit the holes, kind of like you're talking about with Isaiah McKenzie. It could be scary.
I think, you referenced that reception that he had where he was flying in, he was crossing behind the second level defenders. But the really, I think, my opinion, the really grown up and mature aspect of what he did was, unlike in college, you don't expect every second level defender to be able to elevate and tip a ball or make a pick. He recognized or felt it, and as he was crossing, he continued to give up a little ground, get some depth, just like on that little flick pass that Josh threw to Knox. If you go back and look at that, Knox sees that Josh is running toward the end zone, and if he stays right there, he's covered. All he did was back up 4 yards, and he's wide open. So I'm really impressed by Cook doing that. I don't know if that's coaching or instinct, but it was terrific. And then he had that nice run onto the right side. It wasn't much of a hole. He got a quick grab on the jersey, he broke through that, and then what really impressed me was the acceleration. So
He also had one on the left too. Another run on the left where he made a couple guys miss right behind the line of scrimmage and then broke it out, got a first down for it. So again, like, I know it's slow motion. Like, we wanted to see him come out week 1 and be we drafted this guy early, he should be great. It's taking some time, but I think everything that I'm seeing from him, man, I love Devin. I would love to see a guy with the explosiveness of James Cook be able to really get snaps in his offense. So, I'm a little confused as to why. Let me get your opinion on this, because they did, as far as the running backs, we also had Zach Moss active. A lot of people that I was seeing kind of complained about the fact that we didn't have Isaiah Hodgins active because we didn't have the space. Last week or 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, we didn't have Moss active. Do you think just the way we're seeing how the offense is going, because he didn't even get a snap or an offensive, he didn't carry the ball one time. How do you think that's going to go going forward?
Well, I think that this staff has made it pretty clear that you are earning your spot week in and week out. And I like the idea of having 3 running backs up because, I think there's still competition there. So the first 2 guys are having success. You're not going to see Moss, right? And I get it. You've only got a certain number of guys that you can put up for the game. So you got to make those decisions. And, they're above my head, right? Maybe some of them are based on the abilities of the D-line and the linebackers, their speed, their abilities to change direction, and you choose, all right, we're going to go 3 running backs instead of, an extra wide receiver. And if you're thinking about the emphasis on the running game, which appeared to be the case, you certainly don't want 1 and 2 on the sideline for some injury and not have a third one to go to. So if that's your emphasis for the week, you have a stable of running backs. If you're going to go 4 wides, Zach or Cook is probably in street clothes. It's the philosophy that they set up. Sticking with this, I picked up on this. It's hard to see from the stadium, but what I thought was really cool is the way they use Bobby Hart. I don't know if you noticed this, but traditionally when you bring an offensive tackle in to put up a heavy set, you line him up next to the other tackle. So you're guard, tackle, right? But what they did is they went guard, tackle, Knox on the line, and Bobby Hart was at the wing position. So I thought that was kind of cool, because when I looked at some of the failures of our running games that have been outside of a very simple set with 1 tight end and having a bunch of, bunch receivers over here, we tend to lose those plays based on you're asking wide receivers to block. And they're not terribly good at it, just like I can't run a route and catch a ball. So swapping those 2 out, you got Bobby Hart in position to take that more immediate threat. And you have Dawson Knox working with the tackle 2-on-1 and then disengaging and moving up to the next level. I thought that was just really cool to see. You don't see that much. I don't know that I've seen it before.
Well, I was actually impressed with that as well, because one of the things that first came to mind when I saw it was, if you've watched the Raiders at all this year, not yesterday, he didn't have the best day, but Josh Jacobs has been having a really good season because they've added additional guys on the line like that. So I was thinking, help your running backs out, help them kind of get that leverage if you're going to focus on the run. But then, like you said, I also look at that as, because they did it, he had to I feel like he had to report as a receiver or as an eligible receiver. And I think that also took away from a couple things where we've been seeing with the Raiders, guys have been called back, plays have been called back for, guys being down the field too early or something like that. So even just the little nuances or catching those details, I think that helps a lot. And I was super impressed with that. One more thing about the run game, and then we can kind of go on. Jedediah here says, I love our running backs. Glad to see them being utilized more. Why not Gilliam and goal line?
Man, I guess I have to answer that. And I hate answering questions like this because it just goes back to the stuff that I wish I was a part of, that game planning, the philosophy, right? I mean, Gilliam was on the field a couple times. We have shown multiple packages. We utilized Gilliam about 4 weeks ago in the run game and in the passing game extensively. And then it kind of got mothballed. And I don't know the philosophy. Like, I would like to crawl into their heads. I'd like to say to Dorsey, like, why? And I think bringing him in and having him on the field at the very least, gets him kind of acclimated again. You spend too much time on the sideline, you come onto the field, it's like, sitting out for 3 quarters and then you get ahead and then somebody goes in, So it's an available package for him. It's an effective package for him. And I think that seeing him out there now means that we might see a little bit more of him. And I got to be honest with you, this year I'm far more impressed with his play than I was last year. Just by when I look at him, he's making the right calls as far as, block the guy you're supposed to block, do your job and do it well.
Well, and I agree with what you said earlier, but you made a different point. But you were talking about the game planning and if you're going to focus on run and this. I think what we've seen, because early in the season, we've seen him really be used as a weapon in the offense. So I think the team has a plan for Reggie Gilliam. We've seen him catch passes that most fullbacks in the league don't make. We've seen him, so and then this year he's been finishing blocks with violence. Like every time I've seen him finish a block, he's been like throwing guys through the ground. So I think it's one of those things where, like you mentioned, this game, I just think it just came down to the fact that the game plan was to get, the running game going and to try to just move the ball a little more methodically. Even though they took some big chunk plays, I just think it was just the way they wanted to run the game plan. So good question there. Good question there. So let's, before we go on to the next topic, I do want to take a moment and look at one of our sponsors again. We got some House Capital Corp going on. So John, talk to me a little bit about House Capital.
I absolutely will. But before that, I'll say that Brian Belser was gracious enough to invite me into his suite for the game, me and 2 of my friends. Thank you, Brian. Just as nice as I had hoped he would be. Super cool guy. So, Brian, appreciate it, man. You bailed me out, and I had a great time hanging out with you and your people. But for getting down to business, when you're looking to buy a house, everybody has a guy. You might need work done on your roof. Your buddy's got a guy. Need an inspection? I know someone. And when you're looking to get your financing together, there's no one other than Brian Belser from House Capital Corporation, because he is the guy. Let him be your guy. They help make the mortgage process simple, hassle-free, understandable. At House Capital, their preferred relationships with some of the top lenders give you the edge up in getting the financing that you need. Take it to the house with House Capital. All right. Brian Belser, right. House Capital. Don't be afraid.
Well, so I know we kind of already talked about the good, I feel like, too. So let's kind of talk about what we feel like needs work before we head into next week. So if I can kind of start off by kind of steering you where I feel like I want to go with it.
Yeah, that's fine. I can take direction.
Well, I feel like for me, the biggest complaint that I have, and I'll probably sound like, like an old guy on this one, because I understand that the team likes to let guys be themselves and have personality and all this stuff. I think my biggest takeaway wasn't the run game that everybody's been complaining about today. It wasn't the 2 interceptions by Josh Allen. Honestly, it was the fact that they allowed these guys to really get in their heads. And I know that we didn't get penalized for it, not this time, but easily Diggs could have gotten a penalty for any type of taunting or any type of unsportsmanlike conduct. Actually, we did get one with Gabriel Davis. He got a 15-yard penalty
that
for
little bump in the back. Yep.
So for me, it's as a championship team. If that's what we want to be. We want to be a Super Bowl team. Guys are going to try to get in your head, and again, I understand that Diggs is he's Diggs. I love it. I love the energy. John's a dog like that, so I love the energy. But when it comes to it, if you're winning the game, or even not the game, you don't want to give the other team any momentum, or B, the chance to kill your momentum.
Right.
So, as a former player yourself, I'm sure you've been in situations where like Bruce's body slammed somebody wrong or something like that. What are your thoughts on keeping your cool in games like this?
Well, first, God, I mean, I have so many thoughts about this. I think that the rules are just ridiculous for celebration, and I think it takes some of the flair and the emotion out of the game. I think it's 98% harmless. So I don't like the way they govern the game in that regard, but given that the rules are what they are, this team has historically, since McDermott and Bean have been here, very clean and haven't had those lapses. So, to get it again, I mean, they got it out a little bit. They'll talk about it because I agree with you. It was apparent. Just clean it up. You're going to get fined. First of all, they're going to take money out of your pocket if they can, whatever the team rules are, league rules are. So it looked a little bit about like it, and it might be a little bit of the world beater attitude that they've been. That why are we letting these guys hang around a little bit? But it's certainly. It would definitely bite us. We don't want that to happen in a 3-point game against Kansas City. So I'll agree with you on that one. That needs work. That needs to be talked about and reviewed. And there were instances back in the days when coach would come pull you aside and to have a private one with you and remind you that this is when we showed up at training camp. We talked about our goals: win the East, win the conference, win the Super Bowl. And you just got to keep reminding people, go back to why you're here and what you did. Does that help us get toward our goals, or does it prevent us from getting our goals? And, I think it's probably a one-off knowing this staff. I don't know if I told you or anybody out there, but I got the opportunity to meet McDermott and Bean on Saturday after walkthrough.
You lucky dog.
Man, I honestly, I talked to each of them for about 15 minutes, and they're like, you just the intensity and it just exudes from them, and you just soak it up. I know it's a cliche, but man, I would have been running through walls for those guys. So I know they'll take that seriously.
No, and I get that. Even in the interviews where I feel like Coach McDermott is trying to kind of be reserved and hold that stuff back, you can still see it. You can feel that passion jumping off the screen. Shout out to Pam, the lovely, most beautiful Pam. She, with the super chat, she says, saw someone say that the team kind of fell a bit in the second half and Josh was trying too hard to make up for it. I think I agree. Not so much with Josh making up for it. I think Josh was being Josh, but I do think that the team, like we were talking about, kind of just has some moments there of judgment that lapsed that I don't feel like we are typically like. Well, I think Diggs is always passionate like that. Like even last year in New England when he was talking to the fans and was like, you. I'm not going to repeat what he said here, but he's always passionate, and we always see him on the sideline saying, I'm him. They can't mess with me. They can't do this. I love that energy. I just don't want penalties. But how do you feel about Pam's comment here?
Well, to be fair to Pam, because I like Pam, hello Pam, it's not her comment, right? So I'm going to disagree with the person that said Josh was trying too hard, because that's all Josh does is try hard. And in this game, at the speed that it moves and the invariability of expectation of where a guy's going to be a millisecond from now, that's what we love about the guy. So it's not him trying hard. It's like what you said. It's Josh being Josh. Unfortunately, luck counts. And sometimes you're on the ass end of trying too hard. It just don't work. But opposite of that, we don't want that either. this guy with these tools and this skill set, who's made his reputation being the guy who's going to extend a play and do something cool and lower his shoulder and make it happen and get the crowd and the team. I mean, we don't want the other guy, the guy who's afraid to do that. So it just might not look pretty sometimes, but it's still going to be him.
Yeah, and you're right. Sometimes luck does count, and it doesn't, or it always counts, and sometimes it's not on our side. But the good thing about it is, yesterday, it mattered. Like the thing that I was most impressed about is, if we're all talking about how sloppy the game was, or whatever mental lapse and all these different things, we still won points against a guy who's the two-time defending MVP. Now, whether you're going to say, well, he doesn't have Devontae Adams, so he doesn't have the same receivers. Okay, if you're going to say whatever excuse you want to give, the fact is we still beat the two-time defending MVP by 10 points. So, as much as we're complaining, man, I'm good on it.
Hey, you can only play against the guys that show up. And, we can't loan them Isaiah McKenzie because they're sad that they don't have Devontae anymore, right? So they got to figure that out themselves. And one thing I'll agree with you on is, the expectations of the game. I knew I didn't know we were going to win, but in my heart, I thought this was a 99-1 win, right? Mm-hmm. But that guy on the other side of the ball can rally, and they can put a game plan together. Their running game alone showed us that they can put together. They can survive. They can make some stuff happen. And when you lower your expectation of what your opponent is going to bring to you, that's when you get exposed. And I don't think we did it. We bent. We didn't break. But, he's a scary fella. And if he doesn't have his weapons, then he needs to get back into the crayons and the paper and come up with another plan. But it ain't going to be against us.
Yeah, well, one more thing I want to, so work is not the same sense of the question, but I'm going to ask you about this because we saw, obviously, early in the season, Micah Hyde went down, so we don't have him for the rest of the year. Jordan Poyer scared us all yesterday. He said he heard a pop, and I don't know what happened, but he heard a pop. He re-injured his elbow. There's a possibility, we haven't heard yet, but there could be a possibility that he may miss time. The trade deadline is tomorrow. What do you see us looking for possible safety? Do you still think that the Buffalo Bills are probably in the market for another running back? Or, what do you, because it could be scary. Now, we're not facing teams that I'm absolutely afraid of passing game. I don't think Zach Wilson, he doesn't scare me, but, what do you think is what does the team need to work on as far as the overall roster now going forward?
That's a really good question. I don't share the opinion on running back, frankly. I think we got our guys. That doesn't concern me. Being down Micah Hyde and then Jordan, I don't even know what he needs his elbow for. I mean, can't we just put a cast on that thing? I mean, the guy's tough as nails. He'd figure it out. So whether he's out for a week or not at all or 3 weeks, the depth at that position doesn't bother me. It's the number of guys that bother me, right? So it might be prudent to sign somebody. That's what I'm going to say to that. So, look, I wouldn't be shocked if they picked up a secondary guy. Saying that, I don't. I do, but I don't. I mean, I can't really see always exactly what the secondary philosophy is. But as plays go, and I rewind, and I'm saying, oh, what's that guy doing? Where's Hamlin? Right? Who's supposed to be showing up here? Johnson. What's going on? I'm impressed. And I think they've been resourceful and they've been smart about the scheming and putting guys in the right position. So I think the guys on the field are the good guys, the right guys. But if you want depth with experience, then that's not a bad signing. But and then I don't see any other position group that we'd want to entertain at this point. And to what we were saying earlier is, Dawson Knox is back. Tremaine seems to be doing okay. Jordan Phillips looked pretty good. I think the hamstring is nearly fully back. Minus Spencer Brown, I think the offensive line is playing okay to good. And Quesenberry played pretty darn well last night. Minus, everybody has challenges, right? Because the other guy has a pulse. So I would be okay with that. I think that's the spot. If you're going to do it and you're you're concerned going forward, that's probably the position that needs to be entertained.
All right. Well, let's move on. We got a game coming up next weekend that I don't think I'm not worried about. I probably shouldn't have this. I probably shouldn't have this way of thinking, because last year we went up against the Jaguars and everybody felt like this about the Jaguars. But before we get there, I'm gonna just tell you, I feel like barbecue chicken next weekend. I feel like we about to cook and eat these boys up.
Yep, I agree, man. I agree. And if you are going to cook up some barbecue chicken, go the way I go with Q42, barbecue sauce and rubs. I got to tell you, go to Twitter and go at the Eamon. That's TheEamon. He's a great guy. I stopped by his tailgate yesterday, and he had pulled a brisket off, and we had to run. But I was looking at that brisket saying, forget everybody else. I got to stay here. But listen, he does a KC sauce. It's sweet and tangy with a touch of heat, made with local honey. You're going to love it. It's all great ingredients. And I'm a Carolina mustard guy too, half the time, because I became familiar with it. And if you haven't tried Carolina mustard barbecue, I'm drooling, sorry. It's got a bold vinegar sweetness from the same local honey. You got to give it a shot, man. Listen, go to Q42bbq.com, put the code FINA SHOW in all caps. Use that coupon code, and you get 15% off your offer. And go to the damn tailgate and just take a look at what Eamon does. Go to his Twitter page and go to his Instagram and just look what he can do to food. And you're going to be like, I'm in. Q42.
Yeah. Go to the damn tailgate, man. I got to, you know what? I leave out about tomorrow. I got to try to see if I can find a way to get some of that before I head out. If not, next time I come, it's an absolute must. I'm going to do that. So, but like I said, so next week or this weekend now, the Buffalo Bills open as massive favorites this weekend. Last weekend, we were the open was 8.5, and then it crept up to about 11.5 for Green Bay. The Bills opened at 12.5 as far as the spread when it comes to the Jets. What are your expectations for this weekend coming up? What are we gonna see when the Buffalo Bills head out to New Jersey to go face the Jets?
Well, I don't think that New York is a particularly hard place to play, because of the fans. They're not in it to the end, by and large, like Bills fans are. So I'm not so concerned about the location of the game. Going there, it's a short flight. I think the guys are going to be ready. I love this little bit of adversity after the last game going in. The Jets, of course, will be on edge because they just gave it up to the Patriots, right? They have a lot of young talent. I'm not convinced about the quarterback, but they got young talent. And I think it's one of those things, when I was in college, I had a coach where, I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but you go in the locker room at halftime, you're up by 21, and people say, it's 0-0, it's 0-0, go out there like it's 0-0. I had another coach who said, it's not 0-0. You'll never convince yourself that. It's 21-0. Now go out there and bury them, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the Bills are going to have that attitude, and I call it as a W. It certainly won't. No game is easy, and we won't have we won't be without our setbacks.
I'm gonna challenge you respectfully. I don't think it's maybe easy is the wrong word because it's football and it's a professional sport, and that team is professional as well. But I just don't think so. So they're dynamic. First of all, I thought Hall was going to be the rookie of the year. Like the way he was going prior to his ACL tear, I thought that guy was going to be easily. And then on the other side, they have a very good rookie at cornerback with Sauce Gardner. So they have some pieces, but there's nothing about Zach Wilson that makes me think he can hang with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and like they just don't. They have some good weapons, but it's not anything that scares me. And if I'm wrong, listen, I'm back on this show, or I will record something so that way you guys can put me on blast next Monday.
wait, we ain't holding you to that. But I looked. So you have to. You have to understand everybody in the comments. You might not listen to me at all, Spence. I know how you are sometimes. I'm just playing. Listen, when I got to Buffalo, they had just gone to 2 Super Bowls, and we're going out and playing teams, and all I heard in the locker room was every week for 16 weeks, Super Bowl week, and I was like, what are they talking about? I was like, it's not the Super Bowl, and they would go, it's their Super Bowl. They think it's the Super Bowl. They're playing us. They're going to play. You watch it on film. They will play better against us than they will against the other teams. And I'll be damned if the game doesn't step up. When you're in front and you got the target on you, they're coming. And they're jacked up because everybody wants to be on ESPN, sacking Josh Allen or tackling Singletary for a loss or ripping a 35-yard run. And, maybe some of the pieces are challenged right now, but the attitude and the mentality of being the giant killer, that's a pretty strong emotion. So I always temper it, man. I always temper it.
Okay, I'll take care. I mean, obviously, you played the sport professionally, so I can't challenge that, and I wouldn't. And we, like I said, last season we lost to the Jaguars in the same fashion, where I'm sitting here saying, no, we're gonna do. I actually did a podcast the night before. That was when Buffalo Rumblings, we released our first beer. So that was the first round of it. And we did the live Megapod, and I'm on there and I'm talking big stuff, man. I'm like, oh, we're going to destroy the Jaguars. They ain't got nothing for the Bills. And then we come out and lay a goose egg. We lose the game 9-6. So, you're probably right. It might be a little bit more competitive than I'm giving them credit for. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Buffalo Bills cover, man. I think that 12.5 is probably being too nice to the Jets. Like, honestly, I think their record is a lot better than the team they actually are, and that's saying something.
Yeah, well, no, look, I don't. Anything is possible, right? But I just never want to discount the fortitude and the desire of these pros, man. I mean, I've been on that team that was 3-13. I've been on that team that was 6-10, and it's just emotionally devastating when you got to look in the mirror and say, man, we suck. And you just got to get amped up to go back out there. And then, so if everybody's amped up at the right time, sometimes good things happen. And, you got to make sure that your guys are on point. So that, and again, going back, I know we won the game and I don't think it was awful, but there were things like we were talking about the work. They're going to look at that run game and they're going to say, all right, well, were we out of position? That's the number one thing. Did we line up like the defense was called? Yes, no, maybe. I saw on those tosses that we were lined up in an outflanked position already. We were playing some inside techniques, and if that's the design of the defense, that's fine. But you got to know that the other guys are smart enough. They got people upstairs too, and I don't mean our Lord and Savior who can look down and look at alignments and start mixing it up a little bit. So we got to make sure we're ready for a blend of running attack. I don't think that with Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, Daquan Jones, and Tim Settle in the middle, that's a very appetizing place to run.
Right.
But with younger guys on the edges, that's a little bit more appetizing. And, of course, Tremaine and Milano behind, the defensive line. Who, by the way, man, Milano is just killing it.
He's having an all-pro season.
And he is. And look, I'm not going to challenge you a little bit, but I'm going to ask you to go back and maybe look at the film a little, because I'm like you. I'm an advocate for Tremaine Edmonds. Mm-hmm. And I think the things that he does are not measurable all the time. But one thing I do want to see him do is not collect anymore. I want to see him deliver. So in space sometimes, and you don't always do it, okay? There's sometimes when you got to break down, but when you have the sideline as leverage and you got another player there or you have the proper angle, I want to see him delivering more rather than wrapping and taking him down. That's just an observation. So
yeah, no, I'll agree with that. So when I talk about Tremaine and I debate with people about his worth for the team and how what he's done and what he's doing, I don't debate those things. Like if there's certain things there are to improve on,
Mm-hmm.
but my thing is, so like for instance, yesterday we got gashed by the run. It was the entire defense. It wasn't Tremaine.
Totally agree.
So what happens is people will come out and only focus on Tremaine Edmonds not being good in the run, and it's like, wait a minute. Von Miller wasn't good at defending the run yesterday. Tim Settle wasn't good at defending the run yesterday. Like, so there are 11 guys on that defense, and we single out Tremaine, and then we ignore the good things that he does. So I just try to defend him he's having the the best season of his
no,
career.
I don't disagree with you. And in a lot of those instances, what I'm saying is a little ticky-tack because I always measure, and I don't know if they do it on the field because I never played defense. But if a guy's already got the first down, you can put a hit on him or you can be a little bit more secure in the tackle, right? Because you go flying, you miss, and then it's not just a first down, it's another 7. I don't know what's going through his mind, but I'd like to see him a little bit more physical in that way. But I'm an advocate. I like him. I think he's having a terrific year. I mean, everybody on that defense, which brings us to another reason you may want to sign that before the trade deadline is whether you like it or not, Tre'Davious White is still a question mark. I mean, we all hope and believe, but that's a different deal, man. The speed of the game as opposed to the speed of practice, the training room or the weight room, it's all got to hold up. It's all got to work right. And I think the odds are in his favor, but that's still in the back of your mind about, do we sign another secondary guy?
Yeah, and especially again with the injuries that are happening around, not just Trey anymore, but like I said, Jordan may miss time. We don't know for sure. We're waiting on the MRI results, but he may miss time. Mike is out for the year. We saw it last night. As soon as Jordan went out, there was a deep ball that went over the heads of our safeties, scored a touchdown, and it was almost like Rodgers was waiting for, hey, if Jordan's going to take a break, that's when I'm going to go deep. And unfortunately, he was injured and stepped out, but that's how it happened. So I'm just hopefully, like you said, I don't need a running back. I know we've been linked to him. I don't need a running back. I need to make sure we shore up that back end. I don't want teams who I don't want any type of confidence when you go against our defense. I want y'all to go in there and be afraid to throw that thing around.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
But to finish up on the game here, so as far as expectations, what do you think the game plan for the Bills are going to be going into a team like the Jets?
It might sound kind of cliche, but I think they kind of lather, rinse, repeat what they did last night. I think when you feel like your running game is clicking a little bit, you really got to stay with it. Otherwise, there's confusion in the locker room. Like, well, we ran the ball really well last week. Like, where did it go? Now, game circumstances can change what you do, series to series. If it's a close game or if you're way behind, you're not going to be running, inside zone. It's just not going to happen. But I think it's going to be not dissimilar. We're going to see a lot of those intermediate routes, and then we're going to take a shot. And I got to be honest, man, the freaking balls that Josh is throwing on the 9 routes that are hitting the guys 2 yards deep in the end zone, like it happened in Kansas City, like it happened last night, that's a thing of beauty. Yeah. It's incredible. But I think we're going to do that. We're going to bring them up front a little bit. We ran a lot of play action last night. We tried to freeze those linebackers. We put a few passes in kind of short range. We had a few drops yesterday. I don't know who's talking about that, but we had, I think, 3 drops. I was shaking my head. We eliminate those drops from last night. The game, I think, looks very different. We eliminate them against the Jets. We bring them in tight with the running game and the play action, and I think we'll see stretching of the field just a little bit more than we did last night. And I expect a win.
I absolutely expect to win. But just to piggyback off of what you're saying, we had some drops, but we also had some overthrows. I was a little shocked with what I saw out of Josh. Like, so far for this season, it seems like it's been on point. I feel like he's been protecting the ball better. I feel like he's been making really good decisions. Yesterday, he made a couple bad ones in the second half there that just was uncharacteristic of what we've known from Josh Allen this year. And, like you said, clean that up. Now, I'm saying this, and I feel like now I kind of hate the fact that we're having this conversation in a way, because now I sound like a negative Nancy when we're going.
No, you don't.
One, but you said I don't.
No, you can't. Look, it can't be all sunshine and roses every day. But the best part about it was the guy owned it. I mean, I listened to the wrap up. Vaughn was talking and Josh was talking. I can't remember who else I listened to, but when you got a guy that absolutely owns it and you can hear the emotion in his voice, yeah, that's a good thing. And I think this idea, I mean, look, Josh is not Iron Man, right? He's not the Black Panther. He's not going to win every battle, every throw. And they call, if this is the slump, if it's one half slump or, part of a game slump, hey, I'm in for it. If that makes him hungrier and meaner and ready, then I'm here for it.
I was looking at the schedule, and then we can get ready to get on out of here soon. But I was looking at the schedule. I feel like at this point, like we went through the tough part of the schedule. So it's like in a way, before the season, when you saw the schedule, the games that we just went through, some people would have said, "Oh, mate, if we get 4-2 going into the bye, I'm happy. 3-3 into the bye, I'm happy." And at this point, going to face the Jets now, we're at the top of the AFC, we're at the top of the AFC East, and now you have a lot of games coming up where teams are either just at 500 or a little below. The Jets are not, obviously they have a pretty decent record so far, but going forward, it's one of those things where it feels like if we're focused every week, we should really, really end this season with a very good record and a strong chance to lock up that number one seed for the AFC.
Yeah.
How do you just, before we get out of here, give me your thoughts on that. Like, how do you see ourselves positioning ourselves for that number one seed for the end of the season?
No, I read it the same way you do. I mean, I think the schedule, you got to start by looking at the schedule and you got to take it for what it says. You can read it, but it reads right back to you. And we are in a position to dominate and put ourselves at that one seed. I mean, on paper, it's doable. On paper, it's doable to finish with, 2 or less losses. It's just the odds don't say it. Like, there's just so few perfect seasons, right? We don't have a perfect season, but beyond that, looking at the schedule just on its face value, we got a chance to get that one seed. We got a very, very good chance at that one seed. And if we get that, bro, I'll be shacking up on your couch in February.
Come through. I got space for you, man. I already got space. So before we get out of here, I do have to have a shameless plug. Tomorrow night, if you all are free, I have a big show. I have former NFL player, former cornerback and return specialist Adam Pac-Man Jones joining me. We're going to be talking about the game that's on right now, the Browns and the Bengals. But I also want to talk to him specifically about what John and I spent a good part of this show talking about, the backfield. Jordan Poyer might miss time. Trey White might still be a question mark, like John mentioned. We're going to talk about it from an NFL cornerback's perspective. So if you have time tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time, please join me on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. And that's my only shameless plug. I appreciate it. John, do you have anything you want to say before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I'll do my shameless plug. Hi, Mimi, my awesome daughter, Mimi Fina. She's a regular on the show. So nice to see you, honey, and we miss you. Can't wait to see you at Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's my plug. My daughter is awesome. So yeah, hey, and so's Bill's Mafia. I always sound like too much of a cheerleader. I think, I'm not too edgy or mean or anything like that, but I feel like we need more love and kindness in the world. And I get a dose of it. I come here and I get a great dose of it. Hi, honey. So, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate it. From the Market Dominator to House Capital to Q42 barbecue sauce and Spence, man. Thanks for jumping in. For Joe, you're amazing. I wish I had more time to listen to you more. When JV football's over, I promise I'll do better. Forgive me in advance, please. And okay. Yeah, man, that's it for me. I love this team. I love this community. And wow. Oh, I will tell you this real quick. So I said to McDermott, I have my AFC Championship ring on me, and I pulled it out, and I said, hey, man, do me a favor. And I showed it to him, and I said, don't get one of these. And he's like, you don't want me to get a championship ring? I said, yeah, man, I want you to get one, but I want yours to say NFL champion or world champion, not AFC champion. So do that for me.
Get that Super Bowl ring. I'm wishing.
Get that damn Super Bowl ring.
I mean, every year I feel like every team obviously feels like they can do it. But, I mean, really, is there a better chance that you can, like what? This is the year, man. Do it.
It really is. It really is. You
So,
got the right
ladies
people.
and gentlemen, I appreciate you all allowing me to spend time with you and the legend John Fina here tonight. We're going to get on out of here. Everybody enjoy the rest of their Halloween. Go trick or treating. Be safe. Take care of your kids. Make sure you check the candy. Okay? Check candy. And y'all know how I do it over here at Buffalo Rumblings, man. Y'all take care of each other, love each other, and live in peace. And as always, stay positive. Test negative. Go Bills.
Go Bills.